Hey, welcome back to Score on Business. Pete Hendricks here, still with Kris Kelso. And Kris, we've been talking about Adam Grant's study of givers.
Yeah.
What recommendations do you have for being an otherish giver or a smart giver?
Yeah, so one of the tips that he really highlights is the idea of 5-minute favors. And the definition of that is something that is fairly low cost to you, but has a really big impact on someone else. And you should be willing to do 5-minute favors anytime you have the time for just about anybody. Because if the value to another person is high and the cost to you is low, even if you don't get that value, it's a great value exchange, right?
Yeah.
If you're thinking like an investor, it's like, man, the value of my time and the return on this investment, even if it doesn't come back to me, the return to somebody is high. So an example is making introductions. And I talked earlier about meeting someone, finding out they're in a different business and saying, I know somebody you need to meet. And that's really become something that I've tried to make a habit. Anytime I meet somebody new, it's just sort of muscle memory now. My brain goes to my sort of mental Rolodex and starts running through, who do I know that's in this industry or doing similar work or a complementary field where I can make a meaningful connection that could blossom into something. And I can tell you that there are entire businesses that exist today because I introduced two people that were, interested in solving the same problem, and they eventually started a company together and did something. So I've just tried to make that a habit. Now, sometimes nothing comes of it.
Yeah.
But if I've only spent a couple of minutes, I have a very small investment in that relationship.
Yeah.
And over really the value of those really blossoms when a few of them become something really interesting.
And then, is you're going and when you don't keep score, but realize over time there's some that take, you don't invest the time there.
Yeah. You start to recognize when people are just taking advantage or they're just looking for their own leg up, and even the introduction you're making is going to be one-sided because they're trying to just take.
Right.
I don't like to introduce people to a taker because I know that that's not going to be a mutually beneficial relationship, which is something that I focus on when I make introductions. I try to make sure it's not just one-sided. Oh, this person can help that person, but they can't do anything for them.
Yeah.
I don't want to put too much of a burden on, especially busy entrepreneurs and business owners, which is the type of people that I tend to network with.
Exactly. It has never, I've done a lot of connections for a lot of folks.
Yes, you have.
Connecting to a taker, it's never worked.
It doesn't pay off in the long run.
Yeah.
Another recommendation I think is to really adopt an abundance mindset. There's been some good study on mindsets and sort of the scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset. And the scarcity mindset feels like there's a limited amount of resources, there's a limited amount of people I can connect with, a limited, that's sort of my introductions and my resources, I'm spending that capital and it's gone. An abundance mindset says, if I give, there will be more, right? Like if I share an idea and don't get credit, I'll just have another idea. It's not a big deal. And so really adopting an abundance mindset, when you have an opportunity to be generous and you have that thought of, should I spend my time or give when there may not be a personal return for me, that's not going to turn you into a giver. That's going to lean you towards a matcher or a taker. But adopting that abundance mindset of there's always more opportunity, there's always going to be more connections and more great things to get involved with.
Yeah.
To be willing to hand other people opportunities and trust that more will come to you is going to help you to adopt the mindset of a giver. Another recommendation is to, when you meet people, ask more questions rather than just focusing on talking and sharing, right? So I always ask people, what kind of things are you working on? What's your biggest challenge? Who's the one person you need to get to know, or the one expertise you need to add to your team, or, questions about needs. And when you start asking people that, some people, it really throws them off, and I get a lot of, wow, that's a really good question, which right away engages, and they're interested in talking with me more. But I also can quickly find out what people's needs are.
Oh, yeah.
And again, many times I can't help everybody. I don't know everyone that everybody needs to know. But it's a numbers game. If I ask enough people, what do you need? Who do you need to know? What's the biggest challenge you're trying to overcome? Then there's some percentage of those that I'm going to have the answer and be able to provide it, again, with very little cost to me, but a great benefit to them. And then, you know, they're looking at me as a great source of connections, of opportunity, and they're often looking for a way to help me in the long run and reciprocate that favor, particularly if they end up being a matcher, then they sort of feel indebted.
Right.
But yeah, those are some
That
just
makes a lot
mindset
of
tips
sense.
to be more of an otherish giver, and lean towards that type that, again, protects your own priorities and your goals. Don't sacrifice what you're trying to accomplish just to help someone.
Kris, sorry to interrupt. We are out of time for
Absolutely.
today.
Yeah,
And
great
ladies and
conversation.
gents, we'll see you next week. Kris, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome,
being
Pete.
here.
Yeah, enjoy it.
Okay. Talk to you later. Bye.